right, well, good afternoon, everyone. How was lunch? Good. All right, well, I'm sure we'll welcome some more folks into the room. My name's Mark Linton. I look after device partner sales, so that's our OEM business at Microsoft. It's great to be here with you. This session is primarily around the opportunity for Windows Client. So as you think about Windows Client with new AI capability, I'll focus on that today, talking about Copilot+ PCs, what we're doing with NPUs to help developers write applications for those PCs, and then the partner opportunity across the hardware, software, and services. Jan Kolbez on our team will come up and talk about the Windows 10 end of support moment that we have coming. It's less than a year away, and so many of our partners are investing in customer outreach, customer plans, technical readiness, and then migration assistance to help customers there. So we want to let you know about the resources that we have available. And then Gabe Gravning will complete the session by talking about an AI services practice and how we're seeing partners be successful, kind of really building out services, whether you're building your own software and IP, or you're looking at more of the services offerings around it as well. So we have an action-packed session here. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to be interactive in a room this big, but we, instead of doing booming Q&A, because we are telecast as well, we will make ourselves available after the session. If you had questions, please do come and follow up with us. But appreciate you being here, and we'll dig in. And so the Windows 11 progress that we've made is really good to see. And I've been working on Windows now since I started at Microsoft back in Australia many years ago on Windows 98. So I've had many versions. I've actually launched so many versions and then had to do end of support. So in some ways, it's a cycle of life there that we have with that 10-year support standard that we have with customers. And certainly Windows 11, though, has really, really good market traction and importantly, great customer feedback. So if you look at the satisfaction numbers that we track on Windows 11, it's very high. And that's due to the ongoing work we do on not only the user interface, helping you get to what you need to in the operating system faster and more easily, but then increasingly security and resiliency of the operating system as well. You know, customers are worried about when they're surfing online or whether they're, am I going to get socially engineered when I'm using email and so on. And so there's a lot of work that we've done in Windows, in particular for Windows 11, to make customers more secure. As we noted, there's still more work to do. And Satya said it's not a destination, it's a journey that will always be on here because the threat vectors and the things that pose security risks are always evolving as well. And today, if you watched Pavan and Satya talking today, we talked about the resiliency initiative for Windows, which is really changing some of the architecture around admin rights and how we think about users getting access to applications to harden the operating system and then make it easier for partners and IT departments to ensure resiliency of the endpoint there as well. So that was an important announcement. We're working with our ecosystem, in particular, many of the antivirus vendors and folks that need lower level systems access to have best practices in terms of how we think about the operations of those programs and importantly, the updating of those programs as well. So satisfaction is very high. We've got the best and most secure devices. My day job is working with our partners to build, sell, and market the world's best Windows PCs. And so we do deep engagement and a multi-year engagement with partners there so that we can build the right hardware with them and then, of course, take advantage of the platform features as well. And then this year, we launched a new PC category, which is called Copilot+ PCs. And just everybody might be in different stages of understanding that. There's a term in the industry called AI PCs, which generally means a PC with a neural processing unit on it. Doesn't always mean that, but generally, an NPU has been taken to be this AI silicon that enables new scenarios there. We've created the category called Copilot+ PCs, which is for the most capable NPU-enabled PCs out there. So we think of it as 40+ TOPS, trillions of operations per second. And so 40+ TOPS with some other characteristics, and then we work with each of the silicon vendors to then put the features on those PCs that are differentiated. They're actually different Windows features that come on Copilot+ PCs because it uses that specific silicon capability that's only present when it's a powerful NPU there. So we launched that new PC category. I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategy, what we've launched, why we're excited, and what we see the opportunity is for partners. And then, as I said, we'll move to Ender support and building an AI practice as well. So really, there are two big growth moments for the Windows business and for our partner ecosystem this year. As I mentioned, innovation and Copilot+ PCs. For companies that are looking at generative AI and the investments there, we really think that selling the latest Windows PCs, Copilot+ PCs, that have that AI capability built in at the edge is the right way to approach things. Because we know from customers' choice, not everything happens in the cloud. They're in a hybrid world where some of that AI and compute they'll want to have on the local machine, and then you'll also augment it with cloud capability there as well. And applications vendors and ISVs will develop to that architecture as well, because it's very efficient and it's more private when I can run it on my PC, and some users will want to do that. Other times you may want the global scale of the cloud. And then on the refresh side, Windows 10 Ender support is coming, as I mentioned. It's within a year now. And so there's a big opportunity, but also a big need to educate customers across segments, especially in SMB, where the awareness is lower. And so again, Jan will come up and talk about that in a moment. So let's dive into Copilot+. So we talk about these as the fastest and most intelligent Windows PCs ever. And so it's the latest generation of silicon from each of the partners that we work with. We started off with the Qualcomm Snapdragon platform. And if you've seen the reviews, the performance is there. So 10 and 12 core PCs, so very, very high multi-core performance. But importantly, the battery life is the best we've ever seen out of Windows PCs as well. And when you talk to customers, AI is very interesting. But honestly, the reason that they refresh is better performance. My old machine has just gotten too old. It doesn't run as well. The battery doesn't last, et cetera. And so they want to understand, hey, what's fresh and what's new about a Windows PC? And this is our way to say these are the best and most performant notebooks that you've ever used, and they have brand new AI capability. So with that next-gen silicon, your experience there is just really snappy. You're going to have all-day battery life. And just your expectation of what a Windows PC can do just goes up. Now, as I mentioned, we have exclusive AI experiences. I'll talk about them in a moment. Think of this as Windows features that get unlocked because there is that powerful NPU on board. So your experience there, you'll unlock these new features using AI at the edge in Windows, as well as then you can run applications on top, of course, like you can run applications on Windows, but those applications there can write to the NPU, and they can take advantage of inferencing and AI locally as well. So I'll talk about those in a moment. And then the best devices at the best value. So we really think with our portfolio of these next generation Copilot+ PCs, customers will get the best experience, but we'll also have price point availability. So we started off and really that $1,000+ US ASP, but you'll start to see these Copilot+ PCs going sub $1,000 or however it translates to your local market there as well. And of course, the more affordable we can make this new technology, the more folks can afford to purchase it and experience the Windows experience here as well. So that is the Copilot+ PC in a nutshell. Best performance, you get unique AI experiences, and then we have a full range of PCs across, of course, Surface, but then also across all of our device partners that we work with globally. And we expect that the market will move rapidly to AI-capable PCs. It will start in the premium notebook space, but then really go across price bands and across form factors over time. So I mentioned that the NPU can be available across many different layers. And so the interesting thing about it is we have a third piece of silicon now in the PCs. And much like when you had discrete graphics, you could all of a sudden do much richer design software. Gaming software would run much better with better frames per second and ray tracing and shading and other things. We think that by having a powerful NPU on there, it also opens up opportunity for developers in this space and ISV applications. And so this really is that platform effect that Satya was talking about, where Windows is already a very, very broad platform, in the billions of users worldwide and hundreds of thousands of applications and developers writing those applications. But now, because you've got the silicon enablement deep within the systems and the architecture of Windows, we've built AI there to be leveraged. Copilot+ PCs have about 40 SLMs included on them in Windows. And developers can write to the runtime and leverage those models that are already on the Windows PC for their applications to take advantage of it. Of course, they can use their own models and they can bring in the cloud as well. But all of a sudden, you have a runtime environment here, plus also models built into the Windows operating system where developers can write their applications. And each of the silicon vendors has different NPU architectures, but we've done the work there to abstract out so that developers can write to the runtime, and then they don't have to know the underlying architecture of the NPU underneath. Think of it much like if you know gaming, DirectX 12. It doesn't matter if it's NVIDIA or Radeon graphics card, DirectX 12 does all of the graphics work there and abstracts it for the developer so they don't have to write down to the metal, essentially. And so that is the Copilot runtime opportunity that we have. Many ISVs, as we mentioned, are already building to take advantage of it. So we will do things inside Windows, and then we'll enable the platform for ISVs. And so I'll talk about what we're doing inside Windows on this slide. So we've already shipped experiences across the platform here. So you'll see live captions. That's using a language model to do real-time translation using the NPU, so very, very efficiently, so that if I'm in a Teams call or a Zoom call, it's cross-platform, developers can write to it. If I have language as a barrier, say with other attendees, I can have live captions turned on and in real time get the translation working. Again, very efficient because an NPU is very, very efficient at the edge at doing these sorts of tasks. We have studio effects, which ensures that you look and sound your best. So if you think about visual approach there to video conferencing, but then also noise reduction and background effects as well. And so again, studio effects works across platforms. If you're on Teams, if you're on Zoom, if you're on WebEx, all can leverage that, and that's models at the edge running on the NPU. Paint Co-Creator, this is generative images. So if you like to draw, if you want to create graphics, et cetera, or if you want to do something more professional, you can use Paint Co-Creator. Again, it uses the NPU, so there's no going to the cloud and waiting for it to generate the image. Oh, comes back down, it's not what I wanted, then you've got to go back up. And by the way, you're using tokens, so it's costing you money. This actually runs on your PC, so it's free, it's instant, and it's all controlled by the user right at the edge. And then Recall, which is a new feature that is in preview right now. And Recall is really all about helping you find anything you've ever seen on your PC and getting back to either finding the information or taking action. For example, hey, I don't know where I saved a file, but I know that a couple of weeks ago I worked on it, and there was a picture on the front page. What we've done with Recall is a few things. One, there's a visual index. Two, there's a semantic index for what you might search, so that even if you saw something visually, but you search via text, Recall is able to help you connect the dots there, and it stores an index on the PC. We're in preview because we did get some feedback on just user expectations around how the feature operates. And so in this case, Recall will be off by default, so the user can opt in, but it will be off by default. And by the way, through Intune, you can also, in your company environment, and if you don't want it running, you don't have to have it running, so it's all configurable through central policies. To get into the index, or the memories of what you've seen, you'll need biometric authentication as well, so that's another extra step. And then we've worked a lot on the encryption and the way in which the files are stored too. So the user is in complete control, and then we've added additional security, and then IT governance, and of course our partners can then put in policies there because different companies will have different standards as well. But a really important feature, very, very useful. We got some good feedback, which then meant we changed the spec of the product, and we'll be going to Windows Insiders for testing very shortly. And then launching soon, we're also going to have our stack using the NPU. I'll give you one example. Microsoft 365. Today, when you're doing Copilot work, it's running in the cloud, essentially in your tenant. Tomorrow, we'll be able to offload certain tasks to the PC, to the NPU, because you have the AI capability right at the edge. And so we think this is interesting for if you're not connected to a network, if you just want to run certain workloads locally, you'll have the ability there as a user to say, hey, just run it on my PC, do the document comparison and summary, or change the tone of these things. So think of it as Microsoft's offerings will become enlightened with, oh, there's an NPU here that I can use. And the user's in control in terms of how and where they want to run the actual AI workload. You'll see we'll continue with Teams. Defender improvements are coming as well. Click to do, which is a really interesting feature there. Anything that you see on your screen and you want to take action on it. Here's one example. When I see meetings in Teams that might be in a different language, like I'm looking at advertising creative, hey, I want to grab that and just convert it to Australian or convert it to English for me so that I can understand it, and you'll be able to click to do. So literally click a section of the screen and say, hey, search the web, look for that picture, translate, et cetera. So we're really taking that capability through the entire operating system there around visual indexing. And then the final one, which is around upscaling and making your images and photos even better as well. So you'll see AI all through the Windows shell. We call it the Windows experience. AI will just be there, and it will leverage the NPU. And as we get more hardware out there with more NPU capability, of course, more customers will enjoy those features coming through. And then I mentioned, and we actually featured some of the top developers today in some of the demos, but we have an ISV ecosystem team that's working really hard, both to get the tool chain and the tool sets out to the ISVs, but then also to evangelize what we're doing on the device side. Because as we get more of these devices sold in, there'll be more of an opportunity for developers there to have their applications leveraging that new NPU capability as well. So we're excited here, but I feel like this is just the start, and there's so much more coming that we have in the roadmap as we engage the broader ISV ecosystem. Now, I mentioned Copilot+ PCs. They're available on AMD, Intel, and Qualcomm. And so this is really deep, multi-year engineering work that we do with all three of these vendors, because in many ways, adding an NPU is an architecture addition to the motherboards and the SoCs, the systems on a chip that we have there. So it's very deep work. And in some ways, we're customizing how Windows runs to accommodate each of these architectures that our partners have. But the great thing is, again, we're going to abstract away from the complexity in the platform there to help developers so they can write to that consistent runtime. And as I mentioned, we have commercial Copilot+ PCs from all of the top vendors, and it's just been wonderful to see the hardware development efforts. In many ways, it's a three-way between silicon, hardware providers, and Microsoft, and deep co-engineering to ensure that we build very high-quality products, that it's optimized, a great experience out of the box, and a seamless experience to own over time as well. But just really proud of the device portfolio that we have here, and I'm very excited to see these devices, kind of the mix of our PCs, really go to Copilot+ PCs over time. And in many ways, when I speak to commercial customers, they're aware of the refresh need, so refreshing before end of support, but they don't want to go out and get a non-AI PC. And so helping customers take the right steps and choose the right solution, this really helps us because it gives us a full portfolio of offerings that they can evaluate for next steps as well. But we want to essentially enable insurance or future-proofing their refresh by getting AI capability on the PCs as well. So exciting time. There's lots of opportunity here as we combine kind of that end of support moment with Copilot+ PCs. And it's a major technology shift, and it's a major opportunity, I'd say, for our channel and our partners and customers, of course, but then, of course, ISVs and developers too. And one example of our channel partner, SHI, who very early on, and you heard from Joyce earlier, very early on set up an AI practice. And in fact, with the first wave of Copilot+ PCs, they were an early kind of channel adopter, both internally and deploying and dog fooding. We call it dog fooding, which is eating your own dog food. So taking those early devices and understanding what the use cases were and how to deploy them internally, but then also setting up a practice there where SHI was able to think about their PC business, talk about AI and the generative AI trends, and then bring the hardware and the AI discussion together as well. And so they're seeing many early kind of pre-scale, early deployments, and starting to get customers comfortable with that technology so that they can fully assess it throughout their organization as well. So it's just great to see, and I will say most of our solution provider partners now have brought an AI kind of practice alongside their devices sales organization because it's just a huge opportunity there that we can take advantage of together. All right, so before I hand off here, I thought a video is worth 1,000 of my words, certainly. So we'll look at a brief video of some of the features in action, in particular for commercial customers with Copilot+ PCs. I'll say thank you, and we'll invite Jan up after the video. Thanks a lot.
Well, this is exciting innovation. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jan Calvis, and I lead the partner sales, marketing, and operation here at Microsoft. And in simple terms, my job is actually to support you, our partners, when it comes to grow and thrive. And speaking of growth, 2025 is going to be a pivotal moment for the PC industry. Mark covered what I would call the innovation priority and how Copilot+ will create excitement with our customer and user. I want to spend more time talking about our refresh priority, because it's as important for this next calendar year. And especially how we're going to partner together to capture this massive opportunity. And just to put this in perspective, it's going to be the largest Windows refresh ever. And to give you some numbers, we have dozens of millions of PCs still on Windows 10 in the commercial space, and those PCs are due for a refresh. So now, let's discuss together how we're planning to address that. As most of you know, Windows 10 support is ending in October 2025, and after this date, those devices will not receive free software updates. And so behind me, if you look at on the right side of the slide, our EVP, Yusuf Mehdi, published a blog to talk about end of support. And I think it's a very interesting one because we are highlighting a few things. First, we thank our Windows 10 loyal customer who has been on this platform for quite some time. Second, we confirm that we're not moving the date. Microsoft is committed to this October 2025 date. Third, we highlight enhancement in security, productivity, and efficiency that Windows 11 device offers. And we do have some supporting studies to support those claims. Last, we also provide some upgrade opportunity or refresh opportunity or option for customer to choose from, including one which is called Extended Security Update, ESU, that is a program that has been announced a few months ago. So many of you in this room might think why should my customer upgrade now to Windows 11? My first argument would say Windows 11 devices are more modern, secure, and efficient. And it provides an elevated experience that really drives high satisfaction. And if you look, and Mark mentioned this, at the PSAT, so product satisfaction on Windows 11. It's the highest we've ever seen on our platform. That, in its sense, is actually a good reason enough to upgrade, but there is more practical reasons that I've listed here. The first one is really around, like, you don't want your device to be out of date or unprotected, because we all know cyber criminals love outdated devices. And in Windows 11, we provide what I would call security layers that are activated by default, and this results in 62% drop in security incidents. So it's a good reason in itself to update. The second one is you want to stay competitive, because there is a huge delta between a 5-year-old device on Windows 10 and the device and the performance you get with the device that Mark mentioned. And so that differentiation between the two sets of devices is enough to justify, productivity and battery life goes up as well. The third one is really about controlling costs. It takes time and energy to manage a Windows 10 device, and there will be a financial cost associated by staying on Windows 10. It's $61 per user and per year. On the flip side, we have actually a very interesting TCO study that we asked Forrester to do for us. And that study highlights all the customer benefits and saving associated with upgrading to Windows 11. And the last one is really around deployment. It's actually fascinating to see that both our enterprise customer and SMB customer are underestimating the time it takes to upgrade their PC. And I'll talk more about that. That's part of the key learnings I have for you. So speaking of key learnings, I want to share a few, because we've been on this journey with OEM, customers, but also channel partners for the last year. And we've learned a lot together. I briefly mentioned this, deployment. Everyone underestimates the time it takes to migrate your install base. And so the average migration time is actually 15 months for an enterprise customer. So if you do the math, you can see that by October 2025, most customers won't be able to refresh. And so that's why we want to create that sense of urgency to change that trajectory. If you focus now on the enterprise space, it's actually, and when we look at the installed base data, it's actually fascinating to see that on one side, 10% of the enterprise customer represent 50% of the ineligible PCs. So what we want to do is to make sure our OEM and channel partner get access to powerful propensity tool in order to really make sure that your marketing targets the right audience at the right time. If you flip, and if you look at the SMB space, we have a different challenge. SMB awareness is low. Only 10% of our SMB customers are aware that end of support is coming. However, 65% of them said they would act when notified. And so for me, this is the biggest opportunity for all of us, is to help those customers refresh. And with that in mind, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our approach and the investment we're going to make to achieve that. So the one thing you should be reassured by is, like, we're making full funnel investment, and all the investment we are making are grounded in something called the Customer Propensity Targeting Tool, also known as the CAT tool, to make sure we target the right customer with the right message at the right time. If you start with awareness, we've launched a new campaign called The Powers of Me to make sure we infuse some end of support messages inside that campaign. To create that excitement around Windows 11. We also create builder material for channel partners to amplify this. And starting next week, if you're an SMB customer, you'll receive what we call in-product marketing, so marketing inside Windows, to make sure to raise your awareness when it comes to end of support, and this should help us collectively in the near future. We want to drive consideration together with you, our partners, and so we're going to continue to invest in partner events, and usually we follow up with workshop and POC, so proof of concept, and that combination between the two is extremely efficient for us. Last, and to maximize conversions, we've expanded our channel program, and we have something called Strategic Refresh Investments, SRI, and basically it means we're putting more dollars in the channel to create that momentum, to create that acceleration that we're looking for. And if you have a customer that needs technical help, we actually added some technical resources, so think about Fast Track, for instance, to accelerate customer deployments and to remove any compatibility hurdle. So now I want to actually provide 3 practical examples to bring that to life and help you unlock this massive end-of-support opportunity. To drive demand, first, we're, as I mentioned, infusing some end-of-support messaging in every owned and operated Windows 11 campaign that we're doing. And you're going to see that more and more coming from us, Microsoft. But we're also delivering build of material, so BOM, for you, our partners, to choose from. Like if you need messaging for aided sales motion or unaided sales motion, we got you. If you want a balanced messaging, or if you want something more assertive to create a sense of urgency, we also have this for you. In a mail, it's more about this concept of event in a box to really raise awareness and drive consideration. We've done tons of events across the world, and those are successful. And what's very interesting is you see people signing up for POC actually during the event, at the end of the event. And that's how we are testing some refresh model with our customers. Last, readiness. Readiness is critical, especially to explain the why now message. And we've done 600 type of training engagement in the last 3 months. The picture you see here is last week. It was a joint partnership with Intel in a different regions. And we will continue those efforts in the next 18 months because we believe end-of-support is going to take probably 2 years for customer to transition. And rest assured, we'll continue that efforts the next 18 months, both in person or online with what we call the Expert Zone platform. And so to close, the year ahead is going to be an amazing year. On one hand, you have this innovation story around AI that should create some excitement with your customer. On the other hand, you have the biggest ever refresh opportunity in our history, and which is something that should create some customer engagement as well. So I'll leave you with that. This is, we've asked IDC to create a partner economic survey, and the net of it is the channel partners that actually invest in Microsoft services in addition to selling those devices generate more than 7x the economic value, which means every device you refresh or you secure is a platform or a socket to add additional services. And of course, we, Microsoft, we have great services for you to sell, but we want to do more with you. We want to partner with you to co-develop value-added AI services that you can then monetize. And that's exactly what Gabe is actually going to focus on. So I'll pass it to Gabe, and with that, I want to thank you for your attention today.
Thank you, Jan. Appreciate it. My team's charter is to work with device partners to build devices and increasingly new services and solutions. And when I talk to partners, I often hear a key theme, which is, hey, I want to be part of this AI transformation. I want to grow my business with the services multiplier that Jan talked about, but I don't know where to start. So what I want to do is walk you through a little bit of a 5-step process that we've seen work across our partner ecosystem in building an AI services practice. But before I get into the 5 steps, I first want to ground us in what we see as the opportunities. In fact, Satya flashed up this slide in his keynote, and Judson used it as a backdrop in the general session earlier today. Because it really starts with the use case, right? No customers buy AI just to buy AI. It needs to start with what business outcome and what improvement it's going to make to their organization. And so over the last 18 months, as Microsoft has been on this AI transformation journey, we've really found these are the 4 areas that have the most value for AI. The first is around enriching employee experiences. This is the one that's probably the most obvious when you think about Microsoft 365 Copilot and the productivity improvements that it brings, the time savings that we see that customers can realize. And so this is one huge area that we see opportunity. The second one is around reinvent customer engagement. We've shown a bunch of different demos here at the show and previously around scenarios that can improve the customer engagement either on a website or call centers, et cetera, through the use of AI. Improving or reshaping business processes. This is the one that you're going to hear a lot about as we increasingly move from Copilot into this agent-based generative AI world, where this one is super exciting, where we are really seeing a magnifying effect of AI, including Copilot, including agents that can now comprehend an increasingly large amount of data inputs and start to make decisions autonomously on your behalf. So super exciting area. And then finally, I love the last one, which is really bending the curve on innovation. If you empower your developers, your R&D, and your product staff with AI, then the improvements can be amazing. We see this with GitHub Copilot, for example, right? One of the very first sort of compelling use cases for AI, where GitHub Copilot can help developers write code and really help bring products to market that much faster. Okay, so that's the grounding. Now let's kind of go through the 5 steps. The first one is what we call be customer zero. And we actually use this internally for how we at Microsoft all get used to, get deployed and sort of dog food our own technology. And this is important for every organization that really wants to build new AI services or solutions. Right, so this is about embracing an AI culture for what you do every day, because it's important to learn, to use before you can either build or sell differentiated solutions. So we recommend identifying AI exec sponsorship, nominating AI champs, and then starting to deploy and test internally. One way that is now easier than ever for you to do this with your own organization is with Copilot Studio. This makes it so you can very easily build, either extend Copilots, or increasingly, as you saw some of the demos this morning, build your own agents using your data, using your apps, and your logic. These agent-based AI is increasingly becoming sort of the next frontier for the rapid ideation and iteration for AI in the enterprise. So then step number 2. This is about building your technical and sales capability. Here we recommend that you build out what we call an AI Center of Excellence. We've seen this be successful across multiple partner types, in fact, and really is the grounding across your product development, sales, marketing, organizations to have that end-to-end knowledge base of what AI can do and then what your services will provide. This step is all about skilling across the organization. And then, of course, you need to start with a core secure data foundation, so that when you deploy your products and services, that will be secure for the end customers. Step number 3 is what we call build market capacity. So we often talk about capability and capacity. So capacity is about really finalizing and bringing to realization your differentiated solutions and services that you want to take to market. So again, it should be rooted in one of those 4 areas that I started with of those AI transformation, or at least that's where we see the most success. And then we've seen partners be successful here both in terms of selling, reselling Microsoft AI products and services through CSP, or even, of course, then using your own unique IP to build on top of the tech stack your own service and solution. Step number 4 is all about building out the go-to-market strategy. And this is where the partnership with Microsoft can really help you, right? We've talked about in some of the earlier sessions the significant increase in investment that we are making at Microsoft in our partner programs and incentives. And so this is where, with a clear value prop, we want to partner with you to bring new and differentiated solutions out to our mutual customers. And finally, step number 5 is expand success. And while this one might seem obvious, when it's done well, it can be a multiplying effect for the scale of your business. Here, you want to establish the feedback loops and consistently iterate and expand the capabilities of whatever products and services that you're offering. Now, I wanted to highlight a partner and a case study for a partner that we've seen do this extremely well. And that partner is Lenovo. Lenovo, in fact, is our 2024 Device Partner of the Year. And it's not only because they are the largest device manufacturer in the world, but it's also because of their rapid AI transformation and the success that we're seeing as they built out this entirely new business to capture these services and AI opportunity. So huge congratulations to Lenovo for a great year. So let me just talk about one solution that they've just launched in this recent year. And that's called the Lenovo Cyber Resiliency as a Service, or CRAS. So if we just start with the threat landscape, I think we can all agree that security has been rapidly evolving. There are now 921 attacks per second. Costs are skyrocketing, now estimated at $8 trillion. And talent is scarce. There's a massive talent shortage for cybersecurity professionals. And a lot of small and medium organizations simply can't keep up with that pace. So Lenovo, who is already a trusted partner for many, many enterprises across the globe, saw the opportunity to bring and solve some of these challenges. So they've now built a state-of-the-art Security Operations Center, or SOC, using Gen AI powered by Microsoft Security Copilot. And they're providing 24/7 threat monitoring, detection, and resolution for their customers, and thereby reducing that burden. Now, when it comes to the Microsoft partnership, as we partnered with Lenovo through the sort of 5 steps of their journey, they clearly saw that Microsoft could help them across the tech stack all the way to the go-to-market. And so now their SOCs are actively, all the security operators are actively using Security Copilot, and also Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Sentinel are a core tech stack part of their solution. So it's just amazing to see just the partnership and the impact that this new solution is having in the marketplace. So let me start to bring it to a close and recap what we talked about today. We believe 2025 is going to be an amazing year with opportunities across device to cloud. Mark talked about the opportunity to partner to harness the power of Copilot Plus PC, a new category of AI PC that has unprecedented local AI capability and is sort of the best of on-device AI and cloud AI. Then Jan talked about the massive Windows 10 EOS refresh opportunity that we have. And then finally, we want to partner with you to take advantage of these multiplying effect revenue streams that services provide on top of the device and into the cloud. And then let me just leave you with one final slide of some recommended sessions for you all to attend. Later today, there's some great theater sessions where there'll be further deep dives on the Windows 10 end of support opportunity, some additional deep dives on Copilot Plus PC. And then for sure, do not miss the general session tomorrow with Pavan Duvalieri, who will make some additional exciting announcements in the world of Windows. So on behalf of Mark, Jan, and our entire device partner organization, thank you for coming and have a great rest of the show. Thank you.